Dune. Part 1, apparently. I'd love to see part 2. Just gonna say that right now. I'm telling you. Oh, and by the way, I'm back doing a movie reviews. I don't know for how long and how sporadic it's gonna be, but I'm doing movie reviews. I hope you like it. Because it is what a movie, honestly, to come back to. Villain, I'm probably going to butcher his name, and I feel bad for it since he did make a movie that I honestly felt, as a theatrical experience, was absolutely is still somehow dearly in my top 5 favorite films of all time in Arrival. And I also know that him doing Blade Runner 2049, despite a clearly niche audience and the way the box office reflects of that, he did great with it. He made surprisingly one of the best sequels out there to a movie that nobody thought was possible. And of course, his influence in Ridley Scott is there, who did the original Blade Runner. Did that, and he's done this Dune. I don't know if there's a possibility maybe he might have also been influenced by David Lynch a little bit. Maybe not his Dune, clearly, but it's clear it's very much more epic in a Ridley Scott kind of way. Like, the feel of this film to me has this takes from some of the aesthetics, sci-fi, and some of the aesthetics of how he handled, how beautifully done, and the cinematography and everything was done for this movie, for Dune, was amazingly done. And it's apparently, even people who love the books are finally felt like this, at least for the first half of the first book, that this particular movie portrayed did an exemplary job, to the point where I think a lot of people who do want to see the other part 2 of it done, of this particular 2001 version of Dune, I do want to see part 2 happen. Like most people, I see if people aren't as into sci-fi or anything, or even want films of that nature that are more art housey and done very well and done right, which is something that Blade Runner 2049 was. So I kind of knew from him being able to pull that off, there was no way he wasn't going to be able to pull off this Dune, given the circumstances, and knowing full well this is a part 1, and given what he's shown us, I think he nailed it to me. I'm glad this is my first exposure to a film experience of Dune, I mean, not to be confused with that one movie that they tried to do for Dune. But yeah, this 2021 Dune, or actually Dune Part 1, Denis Villeneuve, Timothée Chalamet, who stars in this as well. Rebecca Ferguson, ever since I believe it was the 5th film of the Mission Impossible franchise, I believe. I'm forgetting the name of it. Not Ghost Protocol. Forgetting the name of it for some stupid reason. But that one was good. But I enjoyed this film. I weirdly thought I heard a cat noise. I don't know about you. But anyways. I really did enjoy the way this film came off to me. And so on and so forth with it. But yes, it's funny how the main character is the one that's basically has a normal name in Paul, as opposed to every other character in this who has more out there space names. But I guess it's just how the book put it out there. So it's... Granted, Zendaya barely in it, but if they do part 2, she'll be more involved, for sure. As will, possibly, Javier Bardem's character, who was barely involved, but what he did was awesome. And I did love the moments we had. What little moments we did have every character had their moments, and even Momoa's character, despite not being too far off from what we've been getting from him as either Aquaman or anything else since Game of Thrones. It's worked, though, for him. And eventually, I think a lot of people want to see him pull off what Dave Bautista tried to do and do an actual comedy. But he's kind of been stuck in the typecast thing that Bautista would have still been in, but he managed to get himself out of. Hell, I think some people are wanting him to have the Jason Statham role in Spy kind of a thing for him, I guess. I do, and yes, a lot of people Oscar Isaac's role was great. I'm sure this might have made up to... I don't think he did bad with what he was given in the sequel trilogy, really, or at least what he did with it, and what he does here with what he's mostly involved in for the most part in this half. He's done real well with it, or else he wouldn't have bothered to do this again. And he was kind of given one of the better roles, I'd say, in this movie. And even though, it seems like most of the specific characters, up until the middle half, I guess, are mostly gone. And Bautista, though, speaking of Bautista, his role that he's given here is also kind of considered in that similar kind of typecast type of thing. So it kind of bums me that they had to go somewhat by the book, because we never really got to see Momoa versus Bautista, which would have been awesome, but given you got to follow source material, it just never panned out that way. So but there was a lot of cool things that happened in it, and it's more the fact that it's more essentially similar in sense to what people would say about Game of Thrones, or at least Game of Thrones might have been inspired by Dune in some essence, in terms of the story that it's telling here, where it's mostly about House Atreides basically gets, instead of House Harkonnen basically backs out. The plot basically based around this primarily covers the first half of the book. Set in the far future, it follows Paul Atreides as he and his family, the noble house, are thrust into a war for the dangerous desert planet Freeman people and the enemy invaders and former rulers of Arrakis. The house, and in the film, which is what is happening, to where it seems the way they're setting it up. I get some people feel that it would be, and I can see why, but those who haven't read the books, apparently that's not the real case, or at least from what I'm told from people who actually have and knows that's what the case is. I do want to see this. I understand if we don't. I kind of understand if we don't, given the current things that are happening with Hollywood and stuff. At least not immediate. Although I just hope that some of these characters aging a certain way that are going to be in this film don't affect the way this movie turns out. Fingers crossed. Turns out if we do get it, and it is, and I'm going to say this. I'm jealous of my friends and anyone in the film community that I know of that has seen Dune and seen it in IMAX. Because I'm here to tell you, I should have seen this in IMAX. Because it's yes. because I only saw it in standard definition, their 2D definition. Because this is meant for IMAX. It's an experience in and of itself that's meant for that kind of shit. I'm so jealous of some of you people that did. I really am. And how this is happening. Leto the First, Duke Leto. Not to be confused with Jared Leto, by the way. And some people are saying, well, it seems they probably did rely on similar aesthetics that it seems Star Wars also did for the inspiration that, since Dune, for his inspiration, I guess, with the deserts and everything. And there's so much, like, rich lore, it's a lot to take in, so upon first watch, I can't say it's, yes, but for what this does, it is the first book. You just need to know that going into it, I guess. Apparently, it seems Sci-Fi Channel apparently in 2000s did do a Dune thing. I didn't even know about that. All I knew was about the Lynch movie. But I guess it didn't go over as well. The series, I guess. But Denis Villeneuve, you deserve to make another one. And if you got to do like a GoFundMe or something, some of us who loved what you did will be willing to help you. So long as you can fund yourself and everyone else involved to make this film happen, and to make a part 2 happen and pull it off in such a way that it may rival what happened with Deadpool, with the Deadpool situation. I'm dead serious. I think we do. It's truly epic in scope, as it should be, because it's told it like one. Because on the screen it is titled Part 1. Like, they tell you straight up that, like, this, but it's marketed like it's one film. It's not. And a Part 2 should happen, which I'm guessing the next film will definitely be called Part 2 without question at this point, if it happens. So, and I'm hoping that it does happen, and what we do get will be amazing. So far from what I've seen here, it seems to have grossed $2.23.2 million worldwide against a production budget of see for its visuals and stuff. It has grossed $2.23 million, $0.2 million worldwide against a production budget of $1,000,006. So it kind of did make it so, I guess, according to this, hold on a second. Well, I don't know if it made, I'm guessing what it would have made in terms of its original budget. It did make it back. I'm hoping it got greenlit. Let's see. Development. It's just the production halts, I think, it might not have been enough for the production halts. That it needed to make $1 billion, I guess, to get everything else back because of the delays, I think. But it seems in terms of just getting the money back, it would have initially had to have had. It had, from its original budget, it did, at the very least. But I don't think it made whatever other extra money had to be thrown out just to kind of make up for that it seemed to have lost, I guess. In hindsight for it. But yeah, Hans Zimmer was great with the score, by the way. Personally. And overall, for the most part, it's gained good response. There are some people that probably didn't like it, but those that did, I don't understand. Yeah, it's not officially green yet. He written a full potential. Dune, yes. from what I'm hearing, Dune Part 1, lending credence to plans of future parts in the film. Said at the Venice Film Festival before the film's debut that he is planning on a trilogy, with 2 films being based on the first novel and the 3rd film being based on Dune Messiah. Okay, so basically, he was planning on doing a trilogy, and the plan was to somehow basically have the first 2 parts be the first book, and then I guess Dune Messiah isn't as huge of a book, I guess, as the first Dune. I guess, and that's why he only planned on having the 3rd film being basically Dune Messiah. So it's possible they may just call, if he gets enough to get part 2 off the ground, then hopefully, and it's just as good, then I think it'll be fine. Good visually and everything, and the story still holds up as well on that second half, then it'll be fine. I don't know if people will like it as much as what they did get out of part 1, but we'll see. What we shall see. And apparently, I guess his plan was to basically do the first 2 books that were initially done by Frank Hubert. It seems, I think his son wound up doing 2 other books, and that's considered canon, I guess. To each his own, and there is, of course, a board game and a very similar kind of, almost as hard to deal with, even harder than D&D apparently to get into, type of a role-play game. So, but yeah, for the most part, I do hope for that. There's not too much to spoil that the books haven't exactly, and it's a lot harder for me as someone who hasn't read the books. I was hoping to do something specific, guys, so I apologize that I didn't get to do that with my friends that really had a little more to say in a spoiler discussion. I don't know if I'll actually do one or not, but that's, for the most part, that's what's going on with this. I'm sorry if it's taken too long. There's so many gaps here, but for the most part, I loved what I got out of this. As rich and as, like, a lot to take in as it is, and I could see some of that being what steers people away, but the way it's handled and everything, you can tell there's enough of a similar sense of give a shit that Denis Villeneuve has showcased in as to why a film like Arrival is in my top 5, and why I almost would have considered Blade Runner 2049 in my list of best films of the year of which it had come out, if I had actually bothered to see it when it came out that year instead of the following. But, you know, I'm so upset I wouldn't have gotten to see it then, but, you know, overall, I think he's shown that kind of sense of care, and I'm hoping he does. And overall, I think, and I believe, if he gets the right kind of budget he needs to make part 2, and hopefully it be successful enough to allow him to possibly green light the second book, Dune Messiah. I don't know if there is a way to do Dune Messiah without going into 2 parts. I'm not sure. But that's apparently what the plan was for a trilogy, and have, like, Dune Messiah be the last part. Messiah book be, like, the 3rd part. I guess it wasn't as huge of a book for some reason as, like, the first Dune. Probably because I figured by that point they took enough of everything in from that first book. So, yeah. But anyways, those are my thoughts on it in general about the Dune movie, without having to spoil too much, because I think it's best I don't really. Well, not really too much. If anything, it might be minor. But nothing that you could, other than just letting you know it's a part 1. You need to know that going in, or at least it'll tell you in the title screen before you even watch it. So, and they apparently, from what is the first half of the book Dune, they did justice to it, I think, or at least that's what I've heard as someone who hasn't. And if this is the case, even if I do read it, I'm going to be very pleasantly happy about it. And hopefully whatever they do, if they get a chance to adapt the second half of that book, and possibly the best attempt at possibly trying to do Dune Messiah, let's hope that happens. And works just as well. I hope he can. I hope he has a chance to do it. I believe he can. And Hans Zimmer's scores, like I said, his score is great. I understand some people have some issues with him, and there's no white savior thing about it. There's more to it than that, but it's more it's unfortunate that in the current case, you have to basically read Dune and Dune Messiah to understand that isn't really what's going on. But I digress. Well, what did you guys think of Dune 2021, aka Dune Part 1? Leave a comment below, let me know. Would you like to see Dune Part 2 or Dune Part 2 / also potentially Dune Messiah adaptation of Dune Messiah as well, which would have been Part 3? Or do you think that maybe Dune Messiah is supposed to have a similar treatment as the first Dune book has been right now? Leave a comment below, let me know about that as well. How well faithful do you believe the first half of the Dune book was adapted by Denis Villeneuve as well? I'm curious, since I haven't read it. Leave a comment below, let me know. As always, guys, keep it random. Keep it random. Keep it real. Keep it rocking. And I will see you in the next video. Whatever that may be. Eventually, it might be another album. I don't know if it'll be the Dream Theater one. I feel I need to hold off on that one. But another album had come out this week, and that one I might do instead. And I may just hold off the Dream Theater for something else. Those are your updates for some of you who stuck around in this video, who want to know what goes on in this channel. There you go. And yeah. So, take care, y'all. See you next video. Bye.